So the next feature is awesome if you want to build in a little bit more structure or perhaps build out an agenda for your session. Now we're going to be looking at the outline feature. Now, where will you find the outline feature? So if you go to the top right corner here, you'll see that there's this little icon here. It's called the outline. And indeed, if you click on it, a bar will open up here on the right-hand side that has all your outline items. I have taken the liberty to just add an item here for this demonstration, and I'll show you how you can go and add some content into the outline. But initially, when you create a new canvas and you click on that icon, you'll see that there's some instructions. And in theory, you don't have to read those instructions because you've watched this video. That being said, the elements on the outline, the content on the outline is available to anybody coming into the mural. So it's a great way to help people find their way. But you as a facilitator is the only one that are able to actually go in and change the content and order of the elements on the outline. And I'm going to show you how to do that. Now at the baseline though, I need to point out that this outline feature is actually in a technical way, just a link or a physical position or address to a piece of content on the canvas that you place here on the outline. So at the baseline, if I go ahead here and I see my little sticky note item that I've added here in the outline, if I click on that, it should navigate me straight through to where the sticky note is on the canvas. And indeed, it's done that. Additionally, which is something that is super useful and a feature I want to point out is that as a facilitator, you also have the ability to switch the element on and off by using the outline. So actually what I should say is you can show or hide that element. Now, if you look at the corner here, I'm going to hover over this element. You'll see a little eyeball appear. At the moment, this element is visible. And what I can do is I can click on that eyeball and it will actually hide this element. I want to point out though, if another member comes in or facilitator, they come in, what they're going to see is this little grayed out area here, but they will not be able to interact with this element. Another thing that I need to be careful with to point out is that if any other facilitator comes in and they go to the outline here, they will be able to toggle this piece of content on or off by clicking on the outline over here. That is by intent though. Now, if I'm clicking on that eyeball again, you'll see it'll reveal the content. Now, this is really useful if you want to build out a canvas that progressively reveals activities over time, or perhaps you want to set up the canvas in a way where you don't want to reveal some of the content to the collaborators in the canvas at that point in time. You can then use this as you're navigating through the canvas to reveal the content or hide the content within your control. Now, the most basic thing you're probably wondering is like, Vanner, how do I actually add a piece of content to the outline in the first place? That is super easy. You can add most pieces of content to the outline or a reference point to the outline. For this example, I'm just going to grab my favorite little icon, which is a hamster, drag and drop it here on the canvas. And then what you do is you right click on this little piece of content. And of course, you can also group content or take an area. I'll show you a little bit about that in a second. But if you right click on this item and scroll down, you'll have this little call to action here that says add to outline. I'm going to do that. And what you'll see here on the right hand side is that address or that item is now being added to the outline. Because this is a new piece of content, I can now name it whatever I want. So it might be part of the agenda or just awesome hamster. And now it's part of the outline. And indeed it works. So if I click on that, it'll take me to the hamster. And of course, as I pointed out earlier, I can also show and hide this little hamster. There's additional features to the outline though that I want to point out. So if I go to these little dots here, I have a couple of additional elements. So I can go in, I can rename this item, maybe a bit more descriptive. I can also add instructions, and I just want to quickly show you that. So if I click that open, a modal will open up, and I can add some additional content here. So for example, I said feed the hamster cheese. And if I save that, you will see that the little instruction or indication of the instructions actually lives here in the outline element. This is great if you want to use the outline, let's say for asynchronous meeting where you want people to be able to navigate to a specific space in the canvas, but then you want to just leave some instructions for your collaborators to let them know what they need to do in this space. So you can use the outline to do that as well. I also want to point out that if you go into this area here and you edit the instructions, for example, you can add, you can format a little bit. There's also a feature that not a lot of people know about, is that if you grab a YouTube link, you can actually paste a video into this area as well. So we've had some of our users actually use Mural as a learning management system where people go through the experience using the outline. Now, the next feature I want to quickly point out here is that you also have the ability as a facilitator to change the order of the elements in the outline. So the way you do that is by grabbing the element and just dragging it up and down to change the order. So you'll see it just takes effect. And of course, I can go back and move it back to where I want it to be. Now, there's a little bit more advanced interaction that I enjoy with the outline when it comes to areas. Now, I'm not covering areas in the facilitation superpowers, but it's a super handy feature where you can use an area to cluster certain elements together. So I always say to people I train that this is like a loose grouping. So you'll see here that if I grab this cluster, I'll move it around and you'll see that the sticky notes in the cluster is actually moving with this group. However, I can go in and I can actually move the sticky note outside or into another cluster if I want to. So if I grab this area again here, they'll move around. So this is a really cool way, one of the use cases to actually build or create clusters. Let's say you're doing ideation, you want to create quick clusters. But this video is about the outline element. Now, what is nice about areas is that if I grab an area, like I'm doing over here, and I go and right click on that, and of course I get that little drop down, and as expected, you can also add this area to the outline. So I'm going to click on that. Watch what's happening on the right hand side. You'll see that what the system does, it actually grabs the title of the outline, or the area, apologies, and then makes that the title of the actual element here that I've just added. So the headers kind of update. Now, you'll see that I made a little mistake there, misspelling the cluster name. So I'm going to go in there and say cluster 1. Hit enter. Now it's a part of the outline. It's here. And if I click on that, it will take me to this area. However, it's also updated the headline. So for certain use cases, this is brilliant. If you're using Mural as a presentation tool, or you want to name your areas and make sure that the names are related and these outline elements update on the fly, I would recommend that you use areas. And that, for the most part, is an awesome way to bring structure to your sessions, is by using the outline feature.